All right. Good morning, everybody. Sorry, this is a little bit late starting. I've been offline trying to get things sorted. So, okay. So let's get down to work here and show you my screen. Okay, there you go. Now, I still can't see questions as yet. So there's a few things that we need to still talk about. We can try that later on, but I don't think I can answer any questions as yet. But we'll fix that as time goes on. All right, now quick analysis. Now I wanted to check the euro this morning because I saw it setting up last night, and I wanted it last night. So I'm hoping it hasn't gone anywhere. No, it hasn't. Brilliant. Okay, let's come back. This shows a really strong signal to me that the euro is potentially hitting some resistance up here. Now, we need to speak to Jeff about this in detail because he's the euro expert. He predicted the first wave to the upside when we were talking yesterday. The FTSE is the FTSE 100, so I'm also predicting some upside with the FTSE this morning. I'd quite like to know what the futures are doing. Now, I'll tell you what else I need is the news. So let me just put the news on in the background. Actually, let's wait for Jeff first, and then we'll put the news on in the background. He's not in as yet. Okay, we'll wait for Jeff. Okay, so the euro we're not going to do a lot with. I'd like to check all things against the dollar, which Jeff and I discussed yesterday. So we've got a similar trend line here against the Aussie. The Aussie and the euro, I think, are really interesting charts right now. Both, I think, potentially showing some signs of resistance, but we might be getting some. Jeff, you in with us?
Hello, mate. How you going?
Yeah, very good. How's things with you?
Yeah, I normally say I've never seen the world brighter, don't I? So I've never seen the world brighter, mate.
Great pick yesterday on the euro. I know it was the seconds before you got into it, but what an amazing pick that was.
Yeah, look, pretty much a one out of the blue, isn't it? Really, you're not expecting anything, and then suddenly it sets up, and you've got to get in there. So yeah. Nice little rally up to where we expected it might turn around about the 118 mark, and surely it did.
Yeah.
And there was actually a second opportunity to get into it.
Well, I saw. Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I see it's rallying again. This bar interests me with the euro.
Okay.
It suggests to me that if this is going to be coming down, then we need some sort of signs and signals somewhere around about this price here.
What chart are you on, mate?
This is the 4 hour here.
Okay, 4 hour chart. Let me have a look. See. Yeah, I'm actually waiting on a lower high.
Yeah.
Off the double top. So I'm not that fussed about a price.
Okay.
Anywhere in the, below 170.90 or thereabout. What I'd really like to see is a bit of a rally. But a steady one. I'd like to see a genuine lower high rather than, in one candle or two candles.
Yeah.
I'd like to see a bit of price.
Yeah.
a bit of
Yeah.
price action
Well,
to
let's
get
have a
us
look
up
at your
there.
charts, mate, because I think we are due always to start with your analysis anyway, and then we can flip quickly to the
Sure, mate.
FTSE. Um,
Yep.
and also, I was going to run and get my my other device because I can have some news on in the background. So give me a shake as well. Let me pass you the screen,
Please do.
and I'll be back in 2.
Okie dokie.
You right there?
Don't seem to be able to. Oh, here we go. Now it's up.
You got it.
Okay, you should have my euro dollar 4 hour chart. Yeah, look, here's why I'm looking for a lower high, because we've got a definitive uh, double top sitting here, and we've just into, in my opinion, if I go to the daily chart, just come into this area where we've struggled and struggled and struggled to get through the 118 level. We did it yesterday, as I said, reached that level again and come straight back off it. I see that as a clear signal that price is not happy in that area, and I definitely am looking for that lower high to get me into potentially a here today. I'm not considering long in any way, shape, or form until we get down to a support area. You could probably say we're at a support area by looking at that head and shoulders that we were looking at before. So the broken right shoulder, the retest of that shoulder, as we said yesterday. And that's why I figured this was definitely a chance to go back to that 118 level, just to see if there were, in fact, buyers about the place. And they failed. They weren't there. They didn't turn up. So that, to me, as I said, is a fairly fair. Now, I'm really liking the fact that we're getting some nice positive price action here. And as I just said to Ash, what I want to see is price just make its way up to, I don't know, maybe in here somewhere. So to hit these, sorry, not in there somewhere. Probably back to 118, just shy of 118. Maybe where we got to on where was that? Thursday, with this big bull bar on Thursday. Maybe where that stopped is a good retest. So if we can get up to that level, and then on a smaller time frame, give me that lower high, I think that's probably the signal to go short, and that's what I'll be looking for, most definitely. Probably a couple of other ways to play this with using maybe some support and resistance lines that will turn up on the chart in terms of highs and lows, but I'm just not seeing them there on the daily chart at the moment. 4 hour chart's a little bit different, I suppose. In that we'll probably form some support here, just a tiny intraday support trend line. And if that's the case, we can probably use that to find our way in if we don't get that lower high that I'm looking for. But that's really what I want to see to get into the market short here. I'm quite keen and not willing to go long at this point. So it is that lower high I'm looking for. This level here is a bit tricky, I've got to say. Pretty much where price is.
Okay, I'm with you, mate.
Sorry, where cheers, mate. Where that level 117.31 and all these highs here. That's the tricky, and that's what we're seeing at the moment. We're seeing price hesitate, pause at that level, and that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing, because it will give us this chance for the lower high. And if that's a significant lower high, no matter we're on what time frame intraday, I'd prefer it on the 4 hour, but it's probably going to take a long time for that to develop. On this chart, this is the 1 hour chart. If we can just eke our way up to that level, the 117.78 level, and then give me a reversal bar of some kind, that's probably what I'm wanting to see. Big bush bar that got us into that trade that we couldn't manage to in the market. There's an opportunity.
You're breaking up a bit, mate. Yeah, it's kind of
to
it's a little bit
well,
robotic.
yeah, I'm a bit like that on Tuesdays, but hopefully that'll fix
That's all right, actually. It's
that'll
back now.
fix that. Good. It's only short for you today. That's pretty clear. In fact, I think that's going along with the conversation that we had yesterday with the supposed, well, almost certain, if you like, according to the pundits. And I look for this betting area where we could actually get a good gauge on what the bookmakers were thinking
Great.
on the interest rate, but I couldn't find it.
Oh, okay.
I spent an hour on it and I couldn't find it. I've got to wait till Cliffy's out of bed, and I might just see if he can answer me and give me that site so I can have a look at it. But even this candle is looking interesting to me at the moment. But I'd prefer it if we got up to here. And if we do get up to here, that's where I'll look to get into the market short. The second opportunity to get into this yesterday came into this long to 118, as we were talking about. It came off this little intraday line through here, off these highs. That was the first one that we tried to trade, but the market went a bit quick for me. And then it pulled back and gave us pretty much exactly the same thing. We had a little trade line or trend line coming through here, probably used that high there. And we pulled back off again, just as we did here, and gave a second opportunity. Sleeping, as I promised I would be, after I unloaded. I was still unloading the truck at that stage, I think. And then I saw it up here, and I thought, maybe there's going to be a short setup while I sleep. I did that up, to be fair, just getting straight away, and very, very tough to trade. You have to be a scalper or short. Would have thinking, and exactly did pan out today. If it pans out, we will get lower high, perhaps off the 117.78 level, and if that's the case, there we shall look for. I have already placed an order on cable short. It's actually a daily chart trade that I've placed, and the reason I've done that is I see this as a failed breakout. This area here, where we've tried to break through 131.40. I think we spoke about that level, and yeah, come smashing straight back through it on, when was that? Friday, and then retested this level, this 131.40 yesterday, and put in a little bit of a rejection bar as well. To me, that's a sign that this level's failed, and I can definitely see downside here.
I'll tell you some news that could actually shape cable today, and it may be a bit of a long shot, but we've got the Labour conference, so the opposition conference going on in Liverpool over this weekend. Over this week, and they over the weekend, the leader Jeremy Corbyn said that if the members voted for a second referendum, and with one of the options to remain in the EU, because there's always been talk of a second referendum on the deal, but one of the options that has been bandied around is leave without a deal. On the referendum paper, it'd be leave without a deal, accept the deal that's been negotiated, or remain in the EU. But Labour have come out and said that they will not have stay in the EU as one of the options on the paper. So that is obviously going to put some pressure on the pound. But we find out today whether they are going to go with that. But if the members put enough pressure on Labour, and there's one thing that Jeremy Corbyn, the Labour leader, holds quite highly in high regard, is to listen to the members. And something like 60% of the members want this vote to still remain in the EU. So he may well be swayed on that, and we might see that today, because if Labour go for an option to remain in the EU, the way that things are going with Theresa May, there may well be a snap election even before the end of the year, so she can get a greater mandate for a deal. Or if Labour win, then they potentially could get a mandate to negotiate the deal themselves, or possibly even remaining in the EU. So it'll be interesting to see whether they come out and whether that actually has any effect, because the thing about Labour is that they are notoriously anti-business is a harsh way to put it, but they are perceived as the party that is for workers rather than for the conglomerates and for the business people. And some of the ideas that they've come forward with over this conference has been very, very worker based. They want at least 30% of every boards to have workers on. They want workers to be offered dividends at the end of shares at the end of every year from each company. So they're really tied in the way that a company called John Lewis over here does it, and it's a very, very good and strong model. So that in itself,
wing though, by the
I beg your pardon.
A bit wing by the sound of it.
Yeah, very left. Yeah, they are the left wing party, but they've gone, probably even further left since Corbyn's become leader. So it's going to be a little bit of a juxtaposition. Business will like the fact that we could possibly have a referendum to stay in the EU, but they won't like the fact that we've got Labour in power. So the pound is going to be in a very strange position with a Labour government. But we might still see some strengthening if they decide that the remaining in the EU is going to stay on the ballot paper. But that's a bit of a long shot, and because of that, the way it's looking right now, I don't see much that's going to keep the pound afloat. Do you mind if I grab the screen just for 5 minutes?
No, go for your life, mate. Sure.
Okay, mate. If there's any trades, obviously let us know. But I've got to
I'll give you these. I've actually got 2 trades on the pound, and I'll give you those, but they're way from entry, so
okay.
Tons of time.
Okay, great. And both short, right?
Yep.
Yeah, both short. So that in itself could be interesting for the FTSE. We are looking for longs in the FTSE, but the FTSE has been on a little bit of a downward spiral yesterday. And when we look at this on a longer term time frame, we start on the weekly. I've got a lot of lines on this chart here, but you can see that there is. I'm going to take this one away. We don't need that one. And we probably don't need this one for right now. I'm going to keep this one here, and I'm going to keep this one here and this one here. So you can see that there's some potential support here. In fact, let's take these away. It's going to be a lot easier to see. You can see there's some potential support here from this particular level here. When we drag this out over here, this is a weekly chart. There's some potential support. It has dipped through it somewhat, but it's a weekly chart, so we're looking for it to pop back up above that area. The only other thing with this is that, and last week's bar was an incredibly strong bar, but this is ultimately a break of an intermediate trend here and a move to the downside. So I am going to be looking for longs, and when I look at this on a 30-minute, this is where my trend line comes from. So I'm anticipating a bounce. But if that bounce doesn't come, and really I wouldn't want to trade it straight away, I'd probably want to get it through this level and then get a back test and return, just to see whether we get a change of trend. But if that bounce doesn't come and we continue to move to the downside, then I might well be looking for a short in this area, because ultimately we'll be sticking with the longer term time frame there and the longer term trend. Now there is also a primary trend line here that we were pretty close to bouncing off when we got the last week's bar, but we haven't touched it, and I'm wondering whether this area down here becomes our ultimate area of support, but it becomes a stronger area because we also would be running into that trend line. So really looking for the long opportunities more like middle of October rather than where we are right now, which means that the short opportunity, it could well be there. Now this could mean that we're in for some sticky times over the next few weeks until we get something definite, something to really grab hold of. The pound is going to be an issue. Now, if we see some positive news out of the negotiations with the pound, that is going to be a driver to the downside. While things are the way they are, where so far I haven't managed to get the news on, but the way that news seems to be shaping up, the deal is currently off, and there needs to be a lot more work done. That could potentially play into the hands of the bulls with the FTSE 100. But the other thing we have to consider is yesterday we started these trade wars. You know, that the trade wars started in earnest yesterday. So the question is going to be, what's going to take center stage for the FTSE? What's the driver right now? Is it pound weakness, or are the trade wars? Because it's the trade wars which is causing these moves to the downside, you know, along with the North Korean war. But it's trade wars that really kind of cause this to the downside, and the trade war at this moment in time looks to be picking up rather than dying down. So I think from my perspective, given the look of the pound, you know, we can see this on the weekly. Very, very interesting bar last week, which does suggest that we would find that weakness with the pound. I think the driver at this stage looks like it's going to be those interest rates. But the pound is going to tank if there's anything to do with Brexit, which is negative. But I think until we cross under this level here, then we don't really have confirmation that the pound is going to be going lower. We certainly have a very, very strong hint with the weekly bar. But until we see that that move beyond that point there, looks like the daily is possibly started a downtrend. Difficult to know whether this we could regard that as support with just one bar, but I suppose ultimately when we start to come down to the 4 hour, we do actually see that there is a support level here that has been broken, and it's a pretty good one on the 4 hourly too. So it's been refused once. I'm with you on some downside, and as I say, this could play very much into the FTSE 100's hands. So I am going to look for the long on the FTSE, certainly from the get-go. But I'd quite like to see it break this area first, and then see if I can get a retest and a move to the upside. And we know this can move very, very fast. So let's see what we get out of that. But that's the analysis really for the FTSE, and using the pound as a barometer, I think is the wise choice right now.
Yeah, you're seeing pretty much exactly the same things I am on the pound. There's probably one other on the 4 hour chart that I was looking at that was a bit interesting, but yeah, they're all saying the same thing to me, and they're all saying we're at resistance, having a very, very strong there's downside and a reversal of intermediate trend on the cards here.
Well, here goes the FTSE. So the FTSE has actually opened just above this level. So this could be a decent day with the FTSE. So I'm going to try and get into a long, but I need it to calm down a little bit first. This is going to be a really interesting area. I really like this area for a trade. So this is what we're going to look for. Well, I mean, I think the first thing that I'm going to need to see is I'm going to need to see this return. I mean, I can't just pick it up here without question. I've got to see this return, and the reason for that is that you know, and this is where FTSE 100 morning trades can be a little bit tricky, because the reason for it is that all the bars, when I look at all these, they're all bearish. You know, that's a bearish bar. That's a bearish bar on the hourly. When we look at the 4 hourly, that's a bearish bar. We look on the daily from yesterday. There's an inside bar. There's a gap there. That's a bearish bar. So, you know, I've got to see this return, and I'm not just going to hop in too early here. So I need to see this price brought back down again. That you know, often that doesn't happen. You can just get a gap and go. So it looks to me like that's probably what's going to happen, and it may well be that we missed the trade this morning. But let's see if we get the opportunity. I need to see a refusal somewhere around about this area here. Come back, give us some sort of pattern down here, and then I'm going to get in on the long side. But that's held pretty well.
Yeah, well, predictably the pound's going in the opposite direction, of course.
Oh, brilliant. Okay. All right. Well, so and this is the thing about the FTSE 100. The FTSE 100 is is obviously very, very closely linked to what's going on with the pound. But the pound is only a barometer that you can trust when it's when it's doing things that are extreme. You know, they can both just float to the upside nice and gently. They can both float up there. and it does mean that that people get kind of caught up in using it as a barometer every time. The pound weakens, the FTSE strengthens. That's not the case. What is the case is when the pound starts to strengthen significantly, the FTSE will weaken. When the pound starts to weaken significantly, the FTSE will strengthen. So we've kind of seen some significance off these highs with the pound. So I think we can probably rely on that for some longs in the FTSE. But as I say, this has got to calm down. We can't just hop in here.
Oh, no, same. Do you want to have these two trades?
Yeah, let's have a look.
Okay. Both big long-term ones. One, the other one's on the weekly, but they're both pound short. Let me see what's happening here. There we go. All right, so we're trading underneath this bar here. So the entry level for the trade is at 1.3062 short. Did I say? Yeah, I did 1.3062. And the stop loss is at 1.3130. 1.3130, and we're taking profit pretty early. Actually, we're going to take profit at plus 15 pips, and we're going to take a second profit at. Well, actually, we're not going to take a second profit. We're going to trail the stops at plus 45. So as soon as we get to plus 45, we're going to trail the stops, and we'll trail them initially at 2 selling bars. And I'll amend that if and when the time comes.
Can I just ask you a quick question on that?
Sure.
So 1.3062 is last week's opening price. Pretty much.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Let's just bring that, make sure I've got that right. Oh no, data window. Actually, it's 1.3065. It opened last week.
Okay, that's not far away then. Well, let's go there. We've got the second order on that one, as a matter of fact. What level did you have?
1.3065.
Okay, yeah, which is
the open, and the low was 1.3054.
Right. So our entry is actually at 1.3049.
Okay, that makes sense.
So 1.304. This is the second trade on the weekly chart, right? So we're short at 1.3049, and our stop loss is at 1.3303. Now we're going to take profit here at 1.25. What level do I have there? 1.2590. So we'll take half our trade off there, half our stake off there. And I don't know. I was going to put a target on this. Maybe we'll just trail this one as well. So as soon as you've hit that level, take half off the table and trail the stop with 2 seller bars on the weekly chart. So you're going to be, if this works, you'll be in this for a long, long time with any luck at all.
Yeah.
The entry is at 1.3049, and the stop loss is 1.3303. Let's take profit at 1.2590.
Great.
So they're the two pound trades. You know, obviously the weekly one is way longer term, but it may well trigger.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, this is the thing. It's been moving so aggressively, isn't it? That anything could happen with the pound.
Yeah, look, in particular with the interest rates early Thursday morning our time, my time,
Yeah.
Wednesday evening your time. So yeah, look, I'm happy to hold those two positions through that announcement, and I can definitely see there's an opportunity here. So that's why I'm taking both those positions. Look, aggregate your risk on those guys because the weekly and daily entries are pretty. I think I've got you out. Yeah, I do. No, I don't. I might have to echo. I'll change the entry on the weekly so that we're out of risk of the daily trade. So I'm going to change the entry on the weekly to 1.3045.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea.
So that should get you safe on the daily, and you can enter without aggregating your risk on the weekly chart. So there you go. They're the two orders that I'm currently got in the market. Everything else I'm waiting on a little bit of a signal.
Did you? Yeah. So that's the pound, which we're looking for the shorts with the pound. Did you cover the Aussie?
No, just having a look at it now.
Yeah, because the Aussie I thought was also quite interesting. And we discussed the Aussie a bit yesterday, didn't we? With the relationship that it seems to have with the euro. In as much that it looks like that there's a trend line that it could probably bounce from, and draw back to. Interesting, I think, with both of those is that if we get an up day with the euro and the Aussie, then that trend line may well hold. If because the thing is with these interest rates is that we are looking for the interest rate announcement to be to the upside, but it's always a question: has it already been priced in? If that's the expectation, has it is the assumption that we're going to get it, and is the assumption so strong that that actually what we're looking for is just a muted reaction, and then we just continue as normal, floating in the direction that we do with some of these currencies.
Oh, look, without a doubt. And we see this time and time again where the market is way ahead of us, and it's supposed to be a market that knows everything at all times. And who's to argue with that? I absolutely concur with that. The pricing may well be there. And when I look at things like, I suppose, dollar yen, you've got to look at, that's a horrible chart to look at. Let's make another one, shall we? On dollar yen, probably should look at the dollar index, but that doesn't come up here, does it? Sadly. So when I look at things like dollar yen and how far out do we look to price this in? Well, that's a tough answer or a tough question, really, and to answer that with any certainty is probably foolish, because the Fed have not been shy in saying that they're going to raise interest rates 4 times this year. So when they don't on the previous meeting of the Fed, then the likelihood of it happening the next time is, I suppose, I won't say exponentially, but it certainly gains traction. I guess from that point, which is 6 weeks ago, we can probably have a look at that. So the dollar certainly against the yen. This is 6 weeks ago. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's been on an uptrend since. So I'm am I clutching at straws here? I'm not sure if I am, but that seems to make sense to me, where we're not expecting an interest rate rise and we don't get it, and suddenly the interest rate hike with the next Fed Open Market Committee meeting is suddenly a little bit more likely. And maybe if we are priced into the market, then we've probably been seeing that for the last 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Maybe we are.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, and that's where it gets tricky, trading around the Fed, because of that reason, because the market has been looking at that for quite some time, perhaps.
No, I don't know. Just on the pound, I'm just seeing a headline that Brussels lawmakers are giving a Brexit blow. Now, I don't know what that relates to. I mean, we're going to stay on top of this news, right? So let me just see.
Mm-hmm.
Just see what this is about. Sorry if this is off topic a little bit, but
Also
right, let me
very important.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. So, Brussels lawmakers. I'm just gonna do a quick Google search on it. Okay. Yes, here we go. It looks like oh, it is actually being reported on Bloomberg. So what we have here, there's this incident. The FTSE 100 is back at the price that I'm after, and we'll talk about that in a moment. So lawmakers in Brussels are making life harder for the UK based on financial firms that intend to do business in the European Union after Brexit. UK-based firms would probably need to open a unit in the EU to continue underwriting stocks and bonds and doing market-making business for clients in the bloc. After draft legislation endorsed by the European Parliament Committee, more than half of the European investment firms come from the UK, and the EU must ensure it can oversee them after Britain quits the bloc. According to Marcus Ferber, the Assembly's lead lawmaker on the bill, with a new set of rules, we will make sure that those British firms, like any others which come from a third country, remain subject to the EU regime and will have to set up camp in the EU if they want to perform certain services. Ferber, a German member of the Assembly, said in a statement before Monday's vote, the legislation which amends existing laws, including MiFID II, still faces months of debate in Brussels. While the Parliament has settled on its position, it must wait until EU member states, which function as the second house of EU legislature, do the same, and talks between the two sides could prove difficult, as Parliament stopped short of embracing even tougher proposals advocated by French authorities. So they are pushing. No, we don't need to read all about all the rules, but that they are pushing for the UK to be in deep water. Now, incidentally, just quickly, I know I'm flitting around a little bit here, but I just want to come to the FTSE because this is the trade area. Now, this is exactly where I needed to see it, right? I needed to see. You can see the break of this area here, and the break of this this area here.
Yep.
Which is the same. So my price is perfect. So now my question to you is, what do I buy this bar? I mean, I'd like to put it out to everybody else, really.
Where would you like to buy it?
Well, I want to buy my price. Yes, well, this is the thing. It's at the price. I mean, my point really is, and I don't mean to be unfair to you, that my point is, who in their right mind wants to buy here, sees a bar like this and goes, oh, okay.
Yeah, just jump in now.
Yeah. I mean, I can't do anything.
Where do you want to buy it? Well, I would buy it
at the
but
high.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's way too big to buy at the high as well. You know,
yeah.
I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, it's an awful. But look
Half
at
the
the
size of it.
state of that. I mean, do you know what? The only thing I can do now, which isn't a problem, because all this is suggesting is that there's some weakness up here. So now I've got something to aim for. I'm still going to go long. I'm still going to look for long, I should say. But now what I need to see is this bar effectively close the gap, which it's very close to have done. Pop back up again and end on the highs, and then I will enter long. But I'll be very cautious because of this bar. Very, very cautious.
Yeah, it's saying something, isn't it?
Absolutely,
Like
absolutely.
my dog.
Like your dog, yeah. Oh, this is the thing, actually. With a bar like this, would you go short under the bar, even though that you've got this support here?
No, it's too big.
Too big.
The
But
bar's
would you
too
go
big.
short though? Oh no, because your stops have to be up here, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So either way, it's a bar that we can't trade.
No, I wouldn't trade it.
Yeah.
Well, two reasons. The size of it, most definitely,
Yeah.
but also, oh, my dog, sorry. The shape of it is such that there's been. How big is that, by the way, in terms?
In pips, it is 23.
Okay, and the next biggest bar on the chart, that bull bar,
This one?
yeah, is bigger, but it's the only one on your chart that's anywhere near the size.
Yeah, 31.
Okay, so the almost, I won't say certain, but the almost bankable scenario here now is for an inside bar or
And an inside bar.
or a continuation of the rejection.
Yeah. I mean, it's very
Now,
tricky. Obviously, the price is good. You know, we're seeing people, you know, start to stack in here quite happily. The price is good, but I have to have some rules that I can't trade off certain bars. Which even though it's a shame really, because this bar in itself is actually would be an amazing signal if it was at a specific area. If this bar's body was below this line, that would be a great bar. But where it is, it's just an impossible read, isn't it? And this is the sort of time that you go, yeah, I want to go long, and I can make some money here if it travels all the way back up here. But would I walk back later on and kick myself that I didn't go long? And the answer in this situation has to be no, because a good trade is a trade which follows your rules, not a trade which makes profit. I mean, the ones that follow your rules, the reason that you have rules is because they in the long term do make profit. But I can't justify doing anything with this.
well, look, I think you'll get a second chance if it is
Yeah,
to go long here.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
I think you're right.
this is pure speculation, trading that candle, because
Yeah,
we don't, really it's too tough.
yeah. So let's move away from this anyway, and talk about that. So with the pound, now that was 14 hours ago that was reported.
14.
Yes, so it's not gonna kind of like play a huge part in people's trading just yet. So obviously that is pretty much, but that's the only headline I have now. 14 hours ago, yeah, it would have been well and truly into the end of yesterday.
And what news have we got today? We haven't really had a look at that, have we?
No, let's have a look. Let me pass you back and let's have a quick look at the news. Or are you? Yeah.
I can bring it up. Yep, sure. Ready, steady.
I was thinking about the different days of trading and days that are good days to trade and days that are not so good days to trade.
Yeah.
I really like Mondays after a real good run. I love a Monday. If Friday has been a bullish move or a bearish move, then Monday tends to reverse that move somewhat. So I really like Mondays because you kind of you have a definite direction that you're looking in, regardless of setup. Tuesdays actually I find to be a little bit stickier. As a day, as a rule, I find it a little bit stickier. And then when we get into Wednesday, Thursday, they're the days that I really like to start picking things up.
Okay. Well, I've been quite the reverse of that because Monday has never been a day I've traded,
Oh, okay.
and various reasons for that because I'm A, doing something else, or B, just never found that the market was consistently moving enough on a Monday to get me interested.
Yeah.
I'm trying. What screen are you actually seeing?
Nothing at the minute.
Nothing. Okay, that's probably not good. That's the one I want you to see, but I can't select it. If I move it over to my main screen, maybe you can do that. Let's try that. Bring. It doesn't work either.
That's okay. Well, while you sort it out, let me bring it up. So we got Forex Factory that we're going to. And I think maybe this is some of the reason is that you really have to understand with these days. Now that would be interesting. I'd like to see what happened with the yen. Actually, maybe we should look at that in a bit more detail. We got Kuroda speaking, or sorry, Kuroda has spoken, and now I didn't get a read on Draghi yesterday, but obviously that the movement in the market was down to him. I didn't get a read what that was all about in the end. Kuroda speaking. The second move was it was what he said, was it?
Apparently, yes.
We don't know what it was. Okay.
I was asleep, but
yeah, be interesting to get the transcript of that and see what it was, because they were quite significant moves, it seemed initially anyway. And we got to see the consumer confidence, consumer confidence. So nothing huge today. There's probably going to be some jitters in the dollar, but I suspect everybody's just going to be waiting for the statement tomorrow from the US.
I would think so. That's totally understandable at the moment. If we look at the euro, we're about 14 pips from where we opened yesterday. After all of that movement yesterday,
interesting.
We're absolutely 14 pips from where the market opened this week. So yeah, that's probably telling you a little bit about what's happening in terms of FOMC.
Yeah.
We're not sure, and we're in a holding pattern. That brings me to an interesting one that we'll chat about tomorrow. And I do like to trade a breakout trade on FOMC statements.
Oh, brilliant!
If the market is ranging sufficiently tomorrow, as it has been for the first 2 days of the week, then we may have a nice little setup for that. We'll be able to trade that. We'll talk about it tomorrow anyway. Not so much now. Certainly I'm waiting for a lower high on euro. Kind of got one on the pound on the 30 minute, but it's out of a consolidation pattern. I'd much rather see it come out of a rally, and I'm not seeing that on pound at the moment. Maybe we can.
Yeah, I see what you mean on that. I mean, if it's a tricky one, isn't it? Because I think you'd have to be looking for profit at these lows if you were to enter here. Looks like a potential for a diamond as well. Well, if that ends up being a diamond pattern, it's going to push it over there. Or is it head and shoulders? It could be a head and shoulders, but yeah, it's a bit of a tricky read. Let's just have a look at this bottom level here.
So I actually cheat a bit, and I take the beginning of that line up a tad to the next low, and
This one here.
Yeah. I'll take it up to the next low. Actually, two lows up, two swings up. The bottom, sorry.
This one down
The
here.
start of yeah.
Yeah.
Take that up to two swings.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Yeah, to that one.
Yeah, I can see why you do that actually.
And
I
join it to
see.
that low.
Yeah.
That gives you a different complex.
Yes, it certainly does.
Complexion.
Yeah, it certainly does, and actually that does look better, doesn't it? So let's just have a look at what that looks like on the daily. Yeah, it looks like it probably is that too.
Yeah, every chart I look at is giving me that same indicator. But at the moment, we've got, well, really no price.
No, we don't. Let me just see what we got with the. Yeah, it did fail at 50% here, which is a fairly strong signal.
Yeah, I think I pulled a fib on that. Not that I'm a fib fan. At some stage as well. I can't remember which chart I was looking at.
That's, oh, I mean, that's way too steep, that line, obviously, but I wonder what the relevance of that is on a half-hourly chart. It certainly doesn't look like the pound at this stage is going anywhere too fast or too aggressively, does it?
Well, from what you just told me, I think we're probably in hold mode for a different reason now. We're
Yeah.
waiting for that decision to be handed down. Is there a time on that, or is it just no? It's going to happen today sometime.
What's up with the lawmakers and the? I think
Yeah.
that there'll probably be a vote. And this is the thing when it comes down to it, the UK or yeah, the UK is the sixth largest economy in the world, and when the Brexiteers were performing their arguments and trying to convince everybody else that it was a great idea to leave, that was what they kept coming out with. We're the sixth largest economy in the world. We can't be pushed around. You know, we don't. The EU need us as much as we need them. And the truth is, you know, evidently not. It's just you may be the sixth largest economy in the world, but the reason that you're the sixth largest economy in the world is because you trade within the EU, and the EU is such a huge block, and it's the one area that we have which gives us some power of solidarity. You know that the United States is big because it's so huge. You know, China's a huge nation. You've got Russia that you know in the 80s was one of the largest economies. Obviously, it's faded now, but the just the largesse of the place, just kind of that in itself kind of gives it that little bit more power. And the UK is going to end up being a very, in my opinion, it's going to end up being a very small player. You know, the world has changed and it's shifted, and I think that we are in that era that you're much better off trying to club in with other nations and club in with other countries and trying to become part of a group. And that's how you get your power, because the EU will go out and they will negotiate deals with Canada and Japan. I know you know that the United States is trying to punish them right now, but they'll also go and do deals with Africa and Australia. All the nations that the UK will go ahead and do deals with. They're pointless deals because the EU is already doing those deals, and the UK will benefit from those deals. So this idea that we can survive on our
Go
own
it
because
alone
we're
mentality.
yeah, it's crazy. It's so stupid, and it surprises me that politicians aren't pushing further. Some of them are, but unfortunately they're the smaller parties. But it surprises me that politicians aren't pushing for a second referendum. Now people recognise what we might end up being, what we might end up with, because if we leave the EU to rejoin the EU, you've got to accept all the rules, and that means you've got to take on the euro, and that would be awful for this country. The fact that we can control our currency is a huge benefit, as we've seen, with what happened to Greece. What happened to Greece, that they weren't able to control their own currency, but if they did have the drachma, then I'm sure they would have managed to get out of the situation that they were in a lot quicker than they probably end up will being.
But the point is, they are getting out of it, I suppose. And
Yeah, they are. I mean, but at what
I
cost
I
is the
don't see the
issue?
UK. I don't see the UK getting into that strife. To be fair, but yeah, I don't know. It's a subject, I suppose, for you guys who actually live there. It really doesn't make a lot of difference to me in Australia, I suppose.
Yeah,
So I haven't really given it that much thought, to be
yeah,
absolutely fair.
yeah,
I do see that when the proposal was put, that the pound suffered badly. When it was voted in, it suffered worse, and for that reason, I guess the market's looking at as a very very bad thing that the UK is leaving
mm,
Europe, and you're describing exactly that. So the market knows everything, as we said before.
yeah,
Why becomes the question, and I guess that's always been the question. Why? Because really, the market, the guys who marketed it, did a better job than those who were saying stay,
yeah, yeah,
and that's what it came down to, isn't it? Really?
yeah. Well, it is, it was an anti-establishment vote. I think that was really what it came down to as well. Is that people were, um, for whatever reason, fed up with the establishment. I think ultimately people are always fed up with the establishment. It doesn't really matter who the establishment is; they're always going to be fed up with the establishment. Which is why Donald Trump, and I think that movement was going out through the world at the time. Um,
Yes, no doubt.
and obviously that's, as I say, why Donald Trump managed to resonate with so many people, because again, he's an anti-establishmentarian, certainly, for his voter base, and people bought into that. Whether they're right or wrong, it's difficult to say. Just like you, I don't know the United States well enough to say whether the United States has benefited or suffered economically. From what I suspect, they've probably benefited, but but there are other aspects about Donald Trump that I do know about. Is his climate change policy and his environmental policy, and his gun policy and things like that I just can't buy into, which is why I don't I can't be a Trump supporter from a distance.
A fan. Mm.
Yeah, I can't be a fan of
But
his. It's very very entertaining, but eventually that the entertainment does wear off, and you start to be concerned with actually what he may leave the world. I don't really care about trade wars. It makes no odds to me. The market moves and currencies move, and that's great. But I don't really have too much of an opinion about trade wars at this particular stage, because I haven't got a dog in the fight. But I certainly do with the environment, and that I find very very concerning. But as I say, it's because of the thought of going against the establishment. I think that the reason that we had Brexit, and the reason that Donald Trump came in, I think that's the main driver. And how you fix that is very very difficult. There's a complete lack of trust for politicians, and I guess it's
and
because
rightly
politics,
so.
and rightly so. And you know why I think it's really come from the fact that as soon as you can teach somebody to become a politician, then all of a sudden there are tricks of the trade that start to come through. that everybody starts to use, rather than just having everyday people, because that's what it was before, wasn't it? Everyday people would become, from whatever class, but would become a politician and be fighting for their constituency. But that's changed. There's university courses of how to become politicians and MPs.
With politicians is that they have to be funded, because you can't take everything out of the public purse to run a campaign, for instance.
Yeah.
And because of that, you are always looks directly down the barrel of corruption, because the people who back these people are philanthropists.
Yes.
They're business people, and business person does not invest in anything unless he can.
Yeah.
And that's capitalism. It's just the way it works.
Yeah.
So there's absolutely no question in my mind, and never has been, that the funds that come towards a politician or his party or her party are, well, I don't know if it's blood money, but it's certainly money that is expected to return a dividend.
Yeah,
and
I completely agree.
You can read into that what you want, but don't tell me that property investors or property developers pay into, let's say, a liberal or right-wing government and don't get favourable outcomes. Of course they do. That's what it's all about. So unfortunately, that's the problem. They're corrupt from day one, because the mere nature of running a campaign to be elected is very much based on money that comes from big investors. And as I say, the one thing a big investor does is not throw money away. He wants a return on that investment.
Sorry, mate, just back to the market real quick. This FTSE, this movement is what we were talking about, and you rightly said that there'll be another opportunity here, which it looks like there is. We're almost back to the price. We certainly touched that price again. I've got a question about your what did you call it? The false? No, what do you call it? The 1-2 punch or something?
Oh, VC.
No, what was it? You had a name for when it goes up and then when it comes back.
Oh, what it's going up and back across, and it's
the cross, the double cross. The double cross. Is this, if this closes down here, would you class this as a double cross?
Can you tell me where the daily pivot is?
I certainly can. Right on top of it. In fact, I'll put it on price. So it's 74.64. Just there, about there.
Okay. Well, then, if you get a close below that line, and preferably on the trend line, that would be a double cross for me.
Fascinating. And then the way that we treat the double cross is by selling the low.
No, I buy the high, not the high. I buy the open. Yeah.
You buy the open. So we got down. If it closes on the pivot, you buy it.
I'd like it to close on the other side of I'd like it to close on the low side.
On the low side?
On your trend line. So I'd like it to bullish bar to cross it, bearish bar to double cross it.
The price it's on right now is on the pivot. It's right on top of the daily pivot. The daily pivot actually exists just above this level.
Yep. Well, I'd like to see the candle close on the trend line.
All right, and even though it would be under the daily pivot.
Yep. Better still.
And you buy it there. That's really interesting.
Yeah, because what I'm then saying is, if the bulls, as per the candle, are actually in charge and theirs can't put it back through that trend line, then the momentum is the upside, and the buying power should take, or the bulls should take control again at the top of that sell bar.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, they should buy into the market right about there. So you should get acceleration through the top of that bar.
I mean,
and if you do,
Yeah.
then you need to take fairly quickly. So you probably want to be taking profit before the high of the buying bar.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah. I mean, I'm looking to buy this. I've got to wait to about another 3 minutes or so, 2.5 minutes. But I'm going to look to buy this if I can. I'm not sure if it's going to end up looking like a double. In fact, I'll be buying before we get that double cross look, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm just saying what I do. I'm not telling you what to do. That's for sure.
Oh no, I know, mate. I know. Well, I'm interested. I'm interested about your double cross. I quite like it. I quite like it, but
Yeah, I
I'm just
like the
interested
double
because
cross.
if you would buy, I wonder what other people's because you're going to buy on a completely different strategy than I would, which means that
Yes.
if I'm going to buy and you're going to buy on a different strategy, the buying opportunity becomes greater. Okay, look, now just a quick chat about the pound.
Yep.
This is the pound over here. Whoops. Now, what do you think about that? I mean, does that sort of does that have any validity to you? We kind of we didn't break through with any significance, but almost is that another double cross? It's kind of shut down just there. We get this doji bar. Looks like we're buying into it. Would that be any? Would that have any um, carry any weight with you? The fact that we had a little setup, questionable though it is, on the trend line, on the half hourly.
On the 30-minute chart, let me have a
Yeah.
quick look. I can see where you are. The one thing that is a bit of an issue there is that level where both of those candles, or where the bull bar has closed and obviously the bear bar has opened, is a level that hadn't been broken today, and that is bang on the daily pivot level as well. So a little bit tough for me. A little bit tough for me to look at that and think, I'm absolutely sure that this is going to break to the high side. And if I were to do that, my entry would be. No, there's plenty of room there, actually. There is room for profit before the next resistance level. So it's not that bad. But there is if you go just a tad wider, you'll see that there's a level, the horizontal level sitting there as well.
Oh, yeah. So you wouldn't have traded
So
the doji.
Where's the doji? Oh,
This
okay.
little,
I see the doji there. Yeah.
yeah.
Not in that direction, no.
No, okay. All right.
Yeah, I wouldn't have traded it there at all. No.
Okay. Interesting. Interesting. Not
Yeah,
that that's. What's that, mate?
I would like to have given it one more test of that line. You've a bigger line than I have on my chart. Maybe I needed to take that into consideration. That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I mean it's only valid on this chart. You can't. It doesn't work on any other time frame. It only works on the half hour because it's getting too steep on the shorter time frames. But I thought that was quite an interesting little setup. And it's that's
look, I am having a second look at it, and it doesn't look too bad.
It's a definite. It's a scalp, isn't it? And I don't know how comfortable people are just literally, scalping alone. I don't know whether you kind of because I like to look at long-term charts and then look for a scalp, rather than literally just looking for setups with on a short-term chart, which is what this is.
Yeah, I need a second reason. Normally need a second reason, but obviously that was a good play at the moment.
And there'll be profit taken right here.
Yes, I'd definitely be profit taking. Yeah, look, everything's easy in retrospect, of course. But I'd probably go back to what I said before. I don't think I'd like to have traded through those lows
Yeah.
to the inside. But as you say, there's profit there to be taken. Why not?
Yeah. Yeah. Just looking at it earlier on, it just looked quite an interesting chart. Let me just have a look at the. Oh, I see what is. I know. Yeah, and I see what you mean. There was you've been trading right into the pivot, wouldn't you? The break of the high here would have been trading into the pivot,
Mm-hmm.
which would have been tricky.
Tricky. Look, had Asia moved about a little bit more than it had and given me a definitive break of that level, then I wouldn't have been concerned at all.
Mm.
But because there was really no break of that level, it makes it a little bit tough to then say, well, okay, it's ready to break now. But the good part is the pound is very, very close to where I want to trade it from. So I'll be looking for a reversal bar coming up on the 30-minute chart.
Yeah, I'm just looking also. Um, hmm. Actually finding it a bit difficult to get a read on this. Do you know this start of a potential diamond pattern? It bothers me. You know, diamond patterns when they work out are fantastic, but it hasn't really formed that right hand side of it, and I don't know where it's going to come. If it turns into a diamond at all, I don't know. You know, they're very rare. But if it comes at all, then it does suggest that we've probably got a little bit longer of messing about over here. I'm finding it pretty difficult to get a read on this. Um, Let me just see if I've got.
Yeah, I'm still very much where I was from the outset.
You're waiting
Still
for the break
bearish.
of the low, though, aren't you? A breakdown here.
No, I'm waiting. I'm waiting for price to get to 131.40 or 31.44 actually, or thereabouts. Pretty much where it's almost got
Oh
to,
yeah, 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 yeah,
and
yeah,
then and because that then gives me a confirmation of those lows.
yeah,
Sorry, those lower highs.
yeah.
The tweezer top, if you like. It gives me a combination of that, a confirmation of that, and that's where I'll be looking to trade short.
Right,
Because
right.
when I see the three black crows there, that's a massive bearish sign.
These here, yeah, 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 yeah. I see what you're saying. Well, the
And the
footsie is not.
retracement off there to a
Yeah,
tweezer top at a resistance level, I can't ignore that. If that
yeah.
level is taken out, if that level's taken out, then different story. But at the moment, I'm still bearish and very bearish.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Well, we'll continue to watch that. The footsie's very, very difficult to trade in my opinion right now. I'm not getting I'm not getting what I need. If I look at this FTSE 100, I've got moves to the upside. Obviously, I'm looking for a long here. The hourly at this stage obviously hasn't closed. We come down to the half hourly. This one hasn't closed. Nice bullish bar to start with, though. So that promotes some upside. Setup when I come to these setups, that this 15 probably would need to turn into, well, it's not even going to be a hammer, is it? But something that might give me a buying bar. That negativity followed by a bit of positivity, followed by some negativity. You know, this is a shooting star followed by, I guess, an engulfing bar. You could possibly call it. I'm not sure how it relates to the first bar because of the way that the first bar looks. But then followed by dark cloud cover. We'll see what happens here. But that in itself, that little area there in itself over the last hour suggests a lot of problems to me. Um,
It's kind of telling you something, isn't it? It's telling you that the market really hasn't made up its mind.
Yeah, it really is, and as much as I'd like to get in down here, I don't think there's enough positive information in these bars that suggests that I'm going to be able to get in and run. Um, and in some respects, when I look at the 5 minute chart as well, holding up quite well down here, and this one might start to promote some further upside. But in some respects, when I look at this, um, this. I'm going to draw this on the minute chart just because it's easier to see the lines go where they go. In some respects, the way that it's looking right now, I'd probably prefer to see this fail, and actually show some signs of weakness, because at least then I can either wait for a deeper price down here, because I would like a deeper price ultimately on the FTSE to go long, or I can actually go short and go short. It seems the 30 minute might have given me a possible area. Yeah, going short maybe somewhere around here might be kind of good too. So I just think that today is going to be too tough to trade, and it's going to be a bit of an account breaker. So I'm not too keen up here, as much as I'd like to continue my philosophy of sticking to these highs first. Just the way that it's shaping up, I'm kind of talking myself out of a trade here.
Well, if that's if that's the way you read it, then that's exactly what you should do.
Yeah,
Go to the pool or something, you know.
there's always tomorrow, right?
Absolutely.
And
Look,
you know
I'm
what? I
still
couple that with the pound as well, and with the way that the pound is looking right now, it hasn't made its mind up, and I wonder whether if we are ultimately, the FTSE is becoming like a proxy for the pound today, then I wonder whether it's better just to stay out of the way of trouble.
yeah. Look, if there's trouble brewing, then that's exactly what you should do. I am still very strongly of the opinion that I'm going to have some setups here, so I'm hanging in.
Yeah, I mean, I think for you, because we talked about it yesterday, didn't we? That some markets promote certain strategies, um, and the explosive move to the upside on the FTSE was very, very good for my particular strategy. But for you, maybe we're heading into some market conditions which are very, very good for the slingshot.
Yes, it's very much a nice time, I'll put it that way, when the market does go into range, and FOMC week's generally one of those. And it's a good time if the range is already intact or has been formed, then you tend to get some very, very nice bounces off resistance and support, and
Yeah.
they're the ones that you want to be trading, of course. So I've got that today on the euro. I've got it on the pound, not so much on the Aussie, but I'll be looking to trade the euro and the pound short, both of them, if
Yeah.
I get the right opportunity.
So
And the pound, I'm very keen on.
well, let's pass the screen back to you. Have you managed to sort out your the visual?
I can share the screen, but I just couldn't share the forex factor
Oh,
for
okay.
whatever reason,
All right, that's no
which
problem.
was
Let's have a look, because I'm
pain in
I'm
the
wondering whether
rear end.
we should now we're getting to the top of the hour. Just maybe effectively start to wrap up and see what we want to maybe find in the market today if it shapes up.
Yeah, yeah. Well, nothing's changed for me. Of course, what I wanted from the outset is for price to come to 130, 144, and then give me that lower high that I'm looking for to back up these tweezer tops that are sitting very, very much on that line, and having broken this little trend line here and failed to get back above it in
Oh, yeah, I
concert
like
with
that.
that level, I find this level very, very enticing. So if I do see,
Yeah,
if I
I hadn't
actually saw
seen that.
that bar, if I actually saw that bar sitting here next, and we hadn't broken through that level, then I'd be very, very keen to take that short at that point. That's the 4 hour chart. Now,
Yeah,
the
I like that a lot actually. That's almost like a right shoulder on a trend line, isn't it?
yeah, look,
Which is my favourite.
it's something I can't ignore.
Yeah.
So I'll definitely be looking for that. And the daily chart from the outset was, as I said before, looking very much like a failed break of both of those areas, the trend line and the 130, 140 level, because we did have a close below it. And if you want to call that one a double cross, mate, that's pretty much the same thing.
Okay. All right.
Uh,
Might be
so
getting
that,
that double cross with the footsie in a moment, which we'll come back to later.
yep. So that's giving me that indicator as well. And again, if I can get the right signal here, then happy days. Well, I've already got it on the daily chart. I've got that bar telling me that the shorts are a distinct possibility. And on the smaller time frames, where it actually isn't that clear, what I would like to see, again, if this level goes, things may change. But whilst they're still there, if this actually becomes a lower high here, there may be an opportunity earlier if we pick up maybe a little trend line across here. We may be able to find a false out of that one as well. So we'll be looking for that on the smaller time frames too. But this level's got a hold, of course, and if this level goes, then all bets are off for me today. Certainly on the pound. Euro is very similar in some respects, but I've also got a resistance level here that I can trade off. So a lower high here again does get me interested, and trading straight back down to here is something that I would like to do. So there might well be 30, 40 pips available when that time comes. And that's all we kind of need if we get the right bar to trade. If we get a 10, 12 pip, 15 pip bar trade, we can get 2 or 3 to 1 out of that, no problem. And that's a pretty good day's work, to be fair. So yeah, I'm still there. Absolutely counter what we're seeing at the moment, but these levels here are the ones that I'm holding in fair esteem. So a close above here gets me a little bit concerned, not overly, because we can still get back down here. But if this level goes on the pound, as I say, all bets are off. And that level is around about 130, 170, or sorry, 67. And that's the one I don't want to see breaking. If it is, I'll be with you, mate, and I'll be coming back tomorrow.
Yeah, well, do you know what? I mean, I thought I was coming back tomorrow, but actually the FTSE's actually starting to give me a fairly strong message now.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you want to have a quick look at it?
Yeah. Sure.
Now, would we call this a double cross now?
We could. We
Yeah.
sure could.
I mean, the strong message here is look for the shorts. I mean, it's been unable to get above this this symmetrical triangle level. Possibly we could maybe call it. I'm not going to use it 100% because that's going to lead me to a measured move that I'm not sure whether I can truly trust. But we've come below the pivot. We've become below the trend line. We've got a strong selling bar on the hourly. This is shaping up for some downside, and now I'm looking for a short, and my short area is going to be around about the 74.62 level. So a couple of pips away from where we are now, and you've got to be careful here because of the trend line, and it needs to get through there. But if that gets through that trend line, then there's some fairly, there's some open waters, after that. So there's a little bit of a question here. What I'd quite like to see is this meander around here for a little while and give me that price while still crossing the trend line. So let me just see whether that's going to be too dangerous. Yeah, that's going to be too dangerous and actually unnecessary. Yeah, too dangerous and unnecessary. There's no need to trade this. There's this 62. He's only going to give about 7 pips. Now you're going to need stops well and truly out of the way. And I think it probably will try and dive down here, but I think this trend line possibly could hold it up. Let's just make sure it actually is something that would be seen. Make sure I've got the right level. No, I'm getting two slightly conflicting. Oh, this one's come from a little bit lower down here, which looks a bit more accurate actually. Yeah, so actually unnecessary. There's no need to trade. This is right on top of it. So because I want the low of this bar anyway, I would like to see this trend line broken and see if we can get in more like 74.50, 74.54 area. And that means all this stuff can mess around. There is a sell area right here at 74.62. There is a sell area right here because of the body of this bar. So we could get in here and play it down to this point and then see if it goes through. But I don't think it's necessary. I think we can be a little bit more, get a bit more confirmation by seeing this line get taken out rather than get in. So I'm now more on the alert of the short side with the FTSE rather than the long side. When it comes down to targets, I will be targeting probably well 74.16-ish. 74.16-ish is going to be my my area that I'm going to target. So as I say, plenty of room if we wait for the trend line to get broken and back tested. So going to wait for that. Look for 74.16 and then probably take the profit off the table there and then come back to fight another day tomorrow. So that would be my summarizing, and that's what I'll be planning to do.
All right, mate. Happy days. Just one more, I suppose, if you can come back to me.
Yep.
Have you got my screen?
Yep, you've got a screen. Yep.
I absolutely never know. So this is not suitable for me at the moment, although you can see exactly where this candle has closed. So that's good thing. What I need to see is candle here. Probably just Mac will take out the high marginally, then pull back to be a rejection bar. So a body like that's good, but it needs a tail up here somewhere. And if that's what we get next with this candle, I will look to trade that short. Again, this high is taken out, all bets are off, and I'll come back tomorrow and have a look. The euro is absolutely the same. It's like a mirror image, so there's no need for me to repeat that. It's exactly the same thing. I need to see a reversal bar here on this at this area, and that will be ready to trade short. The Aussie is too tough now. That candle there is not a good one. Way too big to trade short into this support level, so I won't be looking to trade the Aussie anytime soon. Just have a quick look at this, actually. No, I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait on this one. If it reaches this level here, which is around about 72.20, 25, I'd probably look for a rally to this level, 72.70, and then give me the lower high off this bearish engulfing bar. So bearish engulfing bar is giving me the signal that this is ready to go short, but I need to have that confirmed with a nice lower high sitting here. If I get that, that'll be my signal to go short. So I think there's still possibilities here. That's the 4-hour chart, of course, I'm looking at. And this candle too big to trade, so I need to see that on the bigger time frame. 30 minutes, no interest to me at all. So still ready, willing and able but we're getting very close to that level that I don't want to see broken, certainly on the euro and the pound. If that goes, as I said, I'll be back tomorrow. So there's where I'm at, mate.
Great. Okay, mate. Sounds good. All right. Well, we're going to give an update in a couple of hours, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
Yep.
In the new, is that called TTR? I think it's called TTR evening session.
Yeah. Yeah. New evening session. So let's give an update in a little while. Let me just show you one more thing, because I think this anybody that's out there learning about this, I think it's quite important. So this is the opening bar of the day. Opening bar of the day was bearish. The next bar was bullish. The next bar was bearish. The next bar bearish. Now this one is so far incomplete. But now when I switch to the 5-minute chart, look at this engulfing bar here.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I would say this tells any trader all they need to know about whether they should be trading today, or it's trading this morning, I should say. You know, the morning has been very, very choppy. You know, it's all over the place, and somebody's out there making money, but it's not going to be us if we're trying to pick up some sort of trend. If we break through this level, things change. You know, this is another reason that we're not going to trade too early. But if we somehow get through the 74.50-ish level, then things are going to start to change. But right now, I think this is a really good lesson in just sticking out the way. And I think what's your dog's name, Jeff?
Angus.
Angus agrees. I think Angus agrees. I think
He does.
saying, go Ash.
Although my double cross, is headed in the long direction.
Yes, it is, which you said, right?
Well, it's not there yet. Of course, it's got to break high, but if it breaks, then the double cross is in play on the FTSE for the first time.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And it closed under the trend line, and it closed under the pivot. So your idea there was to buy the open, right? Buy the low.
No. Buy the open of the previous bar there, yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay. So if it breaks this high, then you're in.
Yep.
I gotcha. Okay.
Not that I'm trading it, so don't get the idea that I'm trading it. But
No.
On the FTSE.
I get it. I get it. You'd have to understand the way that the FTSE works, but that would be something that you would you look for a setup. I get it, mate. I get it. Well, yeah. I think the takeaway should be for anybody out there that this is not a market to trade in, especially if you're new. But this is not a market you're trading. There's a lot of information here, and the information doesn't always mean that it's going to give us an opportunity. Sometimes it gives us the opportunity to keep our hand in our pocket and don't put the money on the table. So yeah.
Look, I've asked it to do one thing for me, and if it does, I'll trade. If it doesn't, I won't.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, mate. Well, let's give an update in a couple of hours, and I'll bid you bon bouche, and I'll see you in a couple of hours, 11 o'clock our time.
All right, mate. Happy days. See you then.
All right. See you soon. Thanks for listening, guys.